The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
America cannot be saved through legislation. Men and women of virtue and value must rise to alter the very culture of our nation. Christ, not Congress, will be what saves this country. With that, I yield back.
We all remember Madison Cawthorn, right? The morally upstanding, virtuous, valuable young man who patriotically and humbly served his country. Yeah, not exactly. Cawthorn, as we all know, was an absolute disgrace to our country, and this quip maybe explains why. Because he doesn't value Congress or the institutions he was elected to serve in, and only values his own sense of perverted religious nationalism. This tweet is so good in honing in on the hypocrisy of people like Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene, whose personal lives have been derailed after ironically spending most of their time in office not legislating but tweeting about others' moral failings. The two freshman members of Congress who lectured us the most about the importance of marriage, Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Greene, didn't have theirs survive a single term in office. But this habit of tweeting more than legislating isn't just a fringe practice of the Republican Party. It's quite literally their strategy, not to legislate or help the American people, but sow discord within Congress and spend days and resources investigating the Democrats.
We are in a battle, and we have to open up every vector of attack on a corrupt administration that is punishing the American people out of these virtue signals to wokeism. And so I think that we need to have a far stronger fighting spirit with our existing Republicans, and I need the War Room Posse to help me activate that. And so the Republicans understand that their mandate in this election is not to go hold hands in the warm spring rain with the Democrats. It is to investigate them and to hold them accountable. And we can do that without the Senate and without the White House. And that's why it should be investigations first, policy, bill making to support the lobbyists and the PACs as a far diminished priority.
This is what's so sad to me about the current state of the Republican Party. We aren't having conversations that result in a difference in opinion on how to govern, what the American people need and how we can get it to them, how we can use the government to help people. No, this new class of congressmen and women are solely concerned about optics and infighting. Nowhere do any of these civil servants discuss serving, unless it serves their overall goals of stoking the fires of the culture war. You can watch this video of Matt Gaetz and how darkly funny it is that he leads up to saying what it is the Republicans will do if they win big in the midterms, and it is helping Americans struggling with inflation, high gas prices, debt. Nope. Quote, the Republican mandate in this election is to investigate the Democrats. Literally, he says it out loud. Investigations first, legislation second. And he says the second part with such a disgusted look that you can tell he doesn't even want to get there. That's not why he is doing what he's doing. He doesn't care about his constituents. He doesn't care about doing the job he was elected to do. And this is an absolute stain on the legacy of what it means to serve the American people. Across the board, these guys are just throwing their hands up in the air and telling us they don't care about our material conditions, and they aren't even going to pretend they do anymore. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.
Are you ready?
Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Nice to see everybody here. So I hope everybody had a decent weekend. It was nice here, sunny, cooler, and we started today off Monday with cloudy skies and very cold. In fact, now they've issued a frost warning for tonight. So it's, winter's coming here with a wrath. So that's the way it goes here in this state. So, geez, Trump had another one of his stupid rallies over the weekend there where he's sitting there feeding his audience of, 200 people, a bunch of malarkey about trying to get people to, I don't know how you put it, but to not only just to vote, but trying to encourage people to sort of marshalize the fucking voting booths, pretty much by telling, well, we need to have people there watching what's going on. Essentially he wants to have fellow maggots at the voting polls, intimidating voters. Okay. I guess he figures in that way that could keep people from wanting to vote if they see that these nuts are there. Okay. So, he's doing that, and he's doubling down on, no, they cheated at me out of this, and now I'm planning to cry me a fucking river, okay, because he lost. And, people are still clapping and applauding over it, but the numbers of those people doing that are dwindling here in that party, okay, because they don't see that Trump's got any hope at all of a future with politics, okay. They don't see that this man is really, he is a flaming turd coming down off Mount Olympus, and he's going to take as many other nasty turds with him as possible. Now, the other part is the fact that they speak so kindly about Putin in that maggot party, and they wish Putin all the best in the world to succeed at whatever the hell Putin is planning to do with Ukraine. And that's really interesting. It really is interesting, because these same folks who are sitting here applauding Putin for what he's doing are the same folks who, basically wanted the United States to tear apart Saddam Hussein for 9/11, even though we had nothing to do with it, okay? And it's like what these people have forgotten who their enemy really is, okay? Because back in the day, communism was their biggest enemy, way back, and of course terrorism was the thing they didn't like. But now the party has gone all the way around, or actually done a 180 here, and now these people would be the ones rooting for Saddam Hussein and terrorism, okay? Because of how they support Putin for doing essentially the same crap that Saddam was doing, okay? So it's like, now that party really is anti-American. Because, like I said, it wouldn't be too difficult to imagine that if Saddam was still alive and still running Iraq, and the United States was fixing to go to war with it, they'd be on Saddam's side, okay? Essentially, they would be, because they don't like this country, and anybody that wants to take this country on is good people to those people, the Republicans, okay? You can't get any more anti-American than that. They wish on another country invading us. They want the United States to be hammered by nuclear weapons. They want to see the end of the United States, no matter how many lives it costs. That's what they want. And yet, here we are, letting these people run for seats in our government. People are giving them money, hand over fist, from all parts of the world. Okay, let's not hide from the fact that they are getting help from outside the country, which is not right, okay? And we know that Russia supports Trump. So here we have an enemy nation now, okay, who is supporting Trump, and we are supposed to be, as Americans, going to legitimize their run for a seat in our country. When the hell did we start doing that? Okay, if anybody ever came out, let's say 30 years ago, and admitted that they supported Russia or Soviet Union or something like that, and all the things they stand for, and they said all the same things they're saying now, that person not only would be kicked out of the running for presidential seats, but there would be an investigation of that individual of whether or not this man deserves to keep his citizenship in this country. That's what would happen. Now we have millions of Americans who have come out of the woodwork who are basically saying just that, because now they see that it's okay to come out and voice your racism because nobody's going to do anything about it. We had a president for 4 years who set the example, who created the stage for these wackadoodles to come out and speak. And so now they are, and they don't feel afraid to do it. And the more they come out and say it, the worse the rhetoric is going to get from them. And how are we going to react to that? Are we just going to sit on our butts and just allow this to go on? You know, filling our lives with propaganda from people that really should be living in the countries that they want to support. If they like it so much to be a Russian, why don't they just let's give them a free ticket to go over there and stay there, you know? If they love Putin so much, let them go and live over there in Moscow. You know, hey, the door swings both ways in this country. Nobody gets locked into this country if you don't want to be here, okay? So that's all I got to say to them is like, look, if you hate it here, if you hate it so bad that you want to see the country, you know, burn, okay, then why don't you just pack up your stuff and go to the country of your choice. There's a lot of places you can go in this world, and you don't have to, and you could just kick the dust off your heels, jump on a plane, and leave, okay? And no one here is going to hold you back. If you want to go to live in Russia and enjoy the sights and the experience of living in that kind of government, then hey, go get an education. Okay, that's really the best way for people to learn is through experience. Okay, you can't tell them, you know, like what I'm doing, you know, in these videos. You can't just tell people that, you know, what you're doing is wrong, what you're saying is wrong. They don't. That's not going to work with people. Now they have to face these things head on, in an experience, and learn through that. Okay, so you know, learning from history is one thing, but I think if you just boil history down to a textbook and some words, the message doesn't get across. Okay, but if you've put these people in those positions, then they start to get it. They understand the misery and all that. Okay, that's why you can't talk gun control to a lot of these maggot heads. Okay, they don't understand unless one of their own is trapped in a school while there's a gunman outside, you know, 50 feet away, blowing holes in the ceiling, the walls, other people, teachers. Okay, only then will they understand it. But never from mouth to, you know, to a person's ears. Okay, and that's unfortunate because, you know, we're repeating a lot of things, a lot of history in America these days. A lot of things that, you know, I guess a lot of us thought were kind of buried or just coming back to life like zombies. And, you know, we got to re-deal with all this stuff again, getting things back that we thought we had for good, like women's privacy, you know, the right to choose an abortion if they should want to. Okay, these things shouldn't have to be on the ballot again. I mean, we should be able to go and vote on things that we can to help this country, not to try to retake things that were taken from us. You know, the Supreme Court never done that before. They never took away rights. They're supposed to be there to protect and expand those rights to people when needed. As times change, as we all know, they change a lot, and so the way we view things has to change along with it. Because there's no perfect law, all right? There's no such thing as a perfect law, and there's always an extenuating circumstance or, you know, whatever. You know, there's always something that comes up in life that challenges your view on things. Unfortunately for Republicans, they ignore the changes in life. They ignore the realities of what people go through, and they stick to their guns on whether they are for or against something. No matter what flies in their face, they don't stop and think, okay? And they're getting violent. And to prove that, there's a story here from the Insider that was written today. Yeah, written today. It's titled, "A Man Hurled a Beer at a Comedian Who Poked Fun at His Pro-Trump Heckler Wife. Now the club owner says he's pressing charges." Let's see. A comedian performing at a New Jersey club had a beer can chucked at her head over the weekend by the husband of an apparent Donald Trump supporter who heckled the comic while she was on stage. Now the owner of Uncle Vinny's Comedy Club in Point Pleasant Beach plans to press charges against the beer thrower involved in the now viral incident, Insider has learned. Comedian Ariel Elias was on stage at the New Jersey club doing her set on Saturday night when she wound up in a politically charged back and forth with a patron. And they have a video here that shows that. And okay, let's skip that. Quote, "Did you vote for Donald Trump?" Unquote. A woman in the crowd could be heard asking Elias, prompting the comedian to respond, quote, "Why would you ask me that in here?" Excuse me. "Why would you ask me that in here knowing I am the only Jew in this room? Are you trying to get me killed?" Unquote. The patron continued, quote, "So you voted for Biden?" Unquote. Elias confirmed she did vote for President Biden and asked the heckler why it mattered. Quote, "I could just tell by your jokes you voted for Biden." Unquote, the heckler said. Elias shot back, quote, "I could tell by the fact that you're still talking when nobody wants you to that you voted for Trump," unquote, to the sounds of applause. Moments later, a beer can was hurled onto the stage, nearly hitting Elias as she was in the middle of her skit before it smacked into the brick wall behind her. Gasps of shock could then be heard from the audience. Quote, "Are you fucking kidding me? I am never coming out with this group of people ever again," unquote, a man could be heard saying during the commotion. Elias responded to the shocking incident by chugging what was left of the can of beer that was thrown at her as the crowd cheered her on. Quote, "My first thought was, that was such a hard throw," unquote, Elias told Insider on Monday. Quote, "My next thought was, how do I come back from this? I still have 5 minutes left of my set," unquote. Elias said at that moment she, quote, "never needed a drink more in my life," unquote. Quote, "When I bent down to pick up the can, I realized there was still some left in there. I think my only move here is to down it," unquote, she said. Uncle Vinny's Comedy Club owner, Dino Ebelli, told Insider that the ordeal happened within 3 seconds and noted that Elias, quote, "didn't even see the can coming," unquote. Ebelli identified the beer thrower as a local resident who is the husband of the woman who initially heckled Elias. The man threw the beer can while he was seated at his as his wife was leaving the comedy club, Ebelli said, explaining that the man then quickly ran out of the joint. Ebelli said that he has filed a police report with the Point Pleasant Beach Police Department and turned over surveillance footage. He said he plans to press charges. The police department did not respond to a request for comment by Insider. Meanwhile, Ebelli hailed Elias for her beer-chugging response to the incident. Quote, "She was a pro about it, to pick up the can and drink from it," unquote, said Ebelli. Quote, "Her doing that, oh my God, amazing, a pro," unquote. Elias told Insider that she wants, quote, "everyone to remember we all have more in common than we realize," unquote. Quote, "Also, please don't throw things at me," unquote, she said. So, yes, here, things are heating up, as I figured they would, in different parts of the country, because we're getting closer to November 8th. And, we're getting, in this country, comedians used to be able to make jokes, political jokes, and not have to worry about dodging beer cans, or anything else that might be coming their way. Boy, how things have changed, how things have gotten more violent here with politics in this country. How do we fix that? How do we step back from that after we've already opened that door and crossed into the next room? It's usually not so easy to undo something than it is to start it, okay? But I fear that it's easier to keep getting worse and worse every step forward you take going in that direction. Because if more people do this by attacking those who don't agree with them in the manner which this individual did, the worse the attacks are going to get. First, it's beer cans or hockey sticks and whatever. The next, it's bullets. Okay, and since we already have an outrageous crime rate in this country with gun violence, I mean, you might as well add this to a potential step up in that direction. Now it's going to involve, more political assassinations now than we ever had before. I mean, I remember, the history classes stuff talking about how, Robert Kennedy was shot and JFK and Martin Luther King and, and all kinds of civil rights leaders were harassed and attacked and killed, Medgar Evers. I mean, it seems like we're heading that direction again. Okay, we're going to have another period of this battle, this kind of informal battle taking place in the country, and I'm hoping that if it happens, that it will be something that lasts very short. Okay, that's like a phase that'll go away once certain elements in this country are put to bed, as it were. Okay, and I'm talking about the MAGA outfit, the cult out there that's all encouraged about destroying what's still standing as American society. I mean, they won't quit, and a lot of these people really are not even aware that the things that they're doing are crimes. Okay, a lot of these people don't know that, or they don't believe it. And, they feel emboldened to do this stuff. And they consider themselves martyrs for breaking the law, getting arrested, okay, and all that. We saw that after January the 6th, all these people that were being rounded up, being, found through their videos and stuff by the FBI. And these people were crying and, walking away saying, oh, we're patriots and blah, 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 and we all need to be doing this. They really don't see what they did was wrong. They don't. They just don't. And when people are that blinded by their actions that they never question what they do, that's dangerous, okay? We're living in dangerous times here where, it's only going to take some, unfortunate event in America that's going to spark, an escalation of what passes for politics right now these days, okay? And I think everybody should be afraid of that, and we really need to depend on our law enforcement to step up their game and keeping civility in this country. And if it means that some of us, or that all of us, are going to have to allow law enforcement to have the ability to be able to monitor what's going on in our communities and stuff like that closer, so we can prevent a problem before it becomes one, then I say go for it, because, the alternative is to watch our country continue to devolve into, in huge steps to the bottom. And what good will our law enforcement be then at the end of the day? When we could have prevented something that would have, made things worse. So I think, there are times when you have to jack up, security for our government. You have to police the people a bit more. I think that's necessary because, look, things are out of control. I mean, we got mass killings going on. We got people throwing beer cans at other people who don't agree with them. It's not right. That's not America. That's not America. And unfortunately, the only way we're going to undo all this is, and to make it noticeable, is to take, steps in directions that some people will say, oh, you're becoming a fascist or something like that. But, That's the cry of the oppressor, or the people who want to be oppressors. I mean, they're going to find every reason in the world to avoid, justice from coming down on their heads, and that's how they'll complain about it. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Once upon a time, in a place called Mzansi, the people loved driving cars everywhere. They used lots and lots of electricity and chopped down many trees for firewood. And then a very strange thing happened. The weather began to change. In some places there were droughts where before there was rain. In other places the rivers flooded. The grown-ups realized they were contributing to the strange weather. They discovered if they used clean energy and less electricity, they could save Mzansi for their children.
What happened then?
How the story unfolds is up to each and every one of us. Switch off, recycle, change. Help save tomorrow.
The Supreme Court just ruled against the EPA in the case West Virginia versus EPA. Now, at the heart of this case is the Clean Air Act, which is a federal air quality law that regulates emissions from factories, power plants, modes of transportation, and so on. It also gave the EPA the authority to establish national air quality standards. Now, since the 1970s, the Clean Air Act has been responsible for a 73% improvement in air quality, not to mention reductions in other phenomena like acid rain. That drop in pollution has led to a 6-month increase in life expectancy. Doesn't matter where you're on the political spectrum, all of that seems pretty good, huh? But with this ruling, the 6-3 conservative court has restricted the EPA's ability to enforce the Clean Air Act, the one tool we have to not only protect the environment, but to protect ourselves. So the next time someone tells you that this court is pro-life, let them know that we will invariably be sicker and more people will die because of them. And by the way, for those who think that expanding the court is too radical, I tend to think that what's radical here is a court that sides with polluters over Americans in the air.
Oj, kolla här. Kolla här.
Det var där en lavin eller?
Ja, den är kontrollerad. Det är såna jäkla krafter.
Är det safe?
Ja, de vet vad de gör. Nej,
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Well, I was talking, about how, politics is becoming very volatile, and how that volatility is being transferred out to the public at large, and how it's riling up their voters and getting them out there and throwing beer cans and stuff like that. One of these people, as I've mentioned here many times before on my videos, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, and she was in the news again here today from the AP, written by Lisa Mascaro, and it's entitled Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene rises from GOP fringe to the front. And I would say that's probably not too hard to do, considering who's in the fringe. Marjorie Taylor Greene took her seat directly behind Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy, a proximity to power for the firebrand Congresswoman that did not go unnoticed as she unveiled the House GOP's midterm election agenda in Pennsylvania. Days later, she appeared on stage warming up the crowd for Donald Trump when the former president rallied voters in Michigan to cast ballots for Republicans, including for control of Congress. Once shunned as a political pariah for her extremist rhetoric, what do you mean once? She still is shunned. The Georgia Congresswoman who spent her first term in the House stripped of institutional power by Democrats is being celebrated by Republicans and welcomed into the GOP fold. If Republicans win the House majority in the November election, Greene is poised to become an influential player shaping the GOP agenda, an agitator with clout. Quote, "Number one, we need to impeach Joe Biden. Number two, we need to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. And number three, we should impeach Merrick Garland," unquote, Greene told the Associated Press outside the U.S. Capitol. Alejandro Mayorkas is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and Garland, the Attorney General. Scolding the media for having been, quote, "wrong about me," unquote, from the start, she said those who know better, quote, "take me very seriously," unquote. Quote, "I'm going to be a strong legislator and I'll be a very involved member of Congress," unquote, she predicted. Quote, "I know how to work inside and I know how to work outside and I'm looking forward to that," unquote. This is the outlook for the Republican Party in the Trump era, the normalizing of once fringe figures into the highest ranks of political power. It's a sign of the GOP's rightward drift that Greene's association with extremists and nationalists, violent rhetoric, and remarks about Jewish people have found a home in elected office. Her ascent brings into focus the challenge ahead for McCarthy, whose GOP ranks are filling with far-right political stars with the potential to play an oversized role in setting the policies, priorities, and tone of the new Congress. Quote, "I've said for a long time there's a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party," unquote, said Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, at a briefing ahead of the midterm elections. When the Congresswoman says outlandish things, as she did at the Trump rally earlier this month, claiming that, quote, "Democrats want Republicans dead and they're already started the killings," unquote, few Republican leaders dare a public or private rebuke of such incendiary language. In this case, she was exaggerating 2 local incidents involving politics one that ended tragically in a fatality. Greene's political currency stretches beyond her massive social media following and her ability to rake in sizable sums from donors. Her proximity to Trump makes her a force that cannot be ignored by what's left of her mainstream GOP colleagues. McCarthy's allowance for Greene to sit front and center with leadership for the campaign rollout was not by accident but design. The Republican lawmakers in attendance celebrated her presence, calling it a sign of the GOP's big tent that welcomes all comers. But Greene's arrival also signaled a stark normalizing of the most extreme elements in the Republican Party. Longtime political strategist Rick Wilson, a former Republican who left the party in the Trump era, calls Greene's brand of politics, quote, government by trolling, unquote, that marks a dangerous new era for the GOP and will make it difficult to govern. McCarthy is in line to become House Speaker if Republicans regain the majority. Quote, no matter what the trolling part of the Republican caucus does, you can't ever satisfy them, unquote, said Wilson, now at the Lincoln Project. With the departure of the last vestiges of the anti-Trump wing of the House GOP, Liz Cheney, defeated by a primary opponent, and Adam Kinzinger deciding to step down rather than seek re-election, quote, that's it, unquote, Wilson said. Greene swept onto the national stage in the 2020 election, catapulted forward even before she took office. As the lawmaker-elect from Northwest Georgia, she attended a key organizing meeting at the Trump White House as lawmakers laid plans to object to the certification of Joe Biden's election on the January 6, 2021 event. When she arrived to be sworn into Congress, she wore a quote-unquote Trump won face mask. Democrats moved swiftly and unequivocally to reprimand Greene, voting to strip her of congressional committee assignments over her incendiary rhetoric, including trafficking in volatile conspiracy theories. Greene drew rebuke from her own party a few months later for comparing mandatory COVID-19 face masks to the treatment of Jewish people by Nazi Germany. While some have tried to compare Greene to outspoken far-left lawmakers, it became clear even to Republican leaders that Greene stood in a category of her own. At that time, McCarthy called her comments about the Holocaust quote-unquote wrong and quote-unquote appalling. Greene later apologized. In many ways, Greene's arrival in the House traces the arc of the Republican Party's right-wing evolution from the Newt Gingrich revolution that brought conservatives to power in the 1994 election to the Tea Party Republicans that regained the House majority in 2010. Jack Kingston, a former Republican congressman who rose during those earlier eras, said McCarthy was smart in welcoming Greene to unfurl the House GOP's commitment to America last month. Quote, he's got to work with her, and he knows that, unquote, Kingston said. Getting Marjorie Taylor Greene on board is very important, unquote, he said. If you don't bring everybody in the tent, they're going to find their own niche, unquote. In the interview, Greene said she is certain she will be reinstated on her congressional committees if Republicans win the majority, eyeing the House Oversight Panel, and is talking to leadership about her opportunities in the new Congress. Not only does Greene want to impeach Biden and cabinet officials, she is eager to conduct investigations, including into the origins of COVID-19. Last month, Greene unveiled legislation that is another priority. Her bill to prohibit some gender reassignment procedures on minors, flanked by a dozen Republican lawmakers and leaders in the conservative movement. Many of them praised the Congresswoman for her work. Quote, I want to thank Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was soon to get her full legislative powers back, by the way, unquote, said Matt Schlapp, chairman of the Conservative Political Action Committee, who hugged her after. Quote, if this is the type of thing that you're going to have the courage to do, I think that's somebody everybody needs to understand, unquote, Schlapp said. McCarthy and Greene appeared to have come to an understanding that they need each other. The leader needs Greene to come into the GOP fold rather than throw rocks from outside. She needs McCarthy's blessing to regain committee assignments, enabling her to participate more fully in Congress and put her imprint on legislation. At the Pennsylvania event, McCarthy batted away questions about his ability to govern if Republicans win the majority. Quote, name me one person in the conference that is opposed to this, unquote, he said afterward of their platform. Quote, is that a difference? Yes, unquote. Putting Green back into the fold here, as it were, is going to be a disaster, because if the GOP gets control of Congress, you can forget about anything else being done in this country here that's going to benefit America. You can just forget it. And up to now, we know what their agenda is. Don't listen to what they say, okay, because their actions speak larger than their words. The things that they've done in the last 2 years up to now has really laid out exactly what they are, exactly what they're trying to do. So, what they think is good for America is actually going to hurt it. And I believe they know this, because, like I said, these people are hell-bent on trying to destroy this country from inside. And they're going to sell people all this poison and tell them it's good. It's good for you. It's what we need, and we can save our country with this, okay? All along, it's just a Trojan horse that they're pushing out for the Republicans to jump on, and it looks so good when it's painted in gold, the way they deliver it. And so these people are suckers for that, and they're going to jump on this Trojan horse, and it's going to explode in their face. And then, the people who gave it to them will say, "See, the Democrats did it. They did it." And that's been their tactic for years. And I can't understand why Democrats can't get ahead of that ball when this happens. It should be easy to deliver, the message on their side, and to go on the offensive against the Republicans, because their way of doing things hasn't really changed. It's just gotten more violent. I have to say, in rhetoric and in physicality, they've taken that route, and it might seem appealing to certain people in this country, but when you expose the truth behind it all, I think people will start to, slow down and back off, because they don't want to be mixed up with the wrong crowd. They don't want to be caught siding with, Nazis or whatever hell you want to call them, okay, or KGB or type people. They don't want to end up being in that kind of group. They want to feel like what they're doing is right, and as long as Democrats don't really nail it that what these Republicans, these MAGA hats, are doing is wrong, these people are going to continue to cling to these fellow maggots and follow the wrong voice. That's going to get them into a lot of trouble legally, okay? And of course, these people don't care. These politicians, they don't care how many people get in trouble. They're not going to fucking stand with them or support these people as they're arrested and thrown in jail and prison or whatever for doing what they did. How many of these people have gotten help after January 6th from Donald Trump or Giuliani or all these big mouths that were sitting here telling people, go to that thing? How many of these people actually stood up and went over there and done something? None, okay? And how do they feel now? I mean, why can't we go into these places and ask them, how do you feel now about what you did? Okay, do you think you would have done it? Would you have done it again, given the choice, knowing how it was going to turn out? I would really like to see these people questioned and told, and for the answers to get out, because people need to hear how some folks who learned something from what they did and discovered that they were on the wrong side of history, they need to understand that, okay, and hear it. Even the people in the Republican Party need to hear that. So that way more of them can feel a little less intimidated by not wanting to leave and getting off the ship, as it were. So I think the media really ought to go into these places and question these people. I mean, let's see the Republican Party try to influence these people in jail now. Okay, let's see them do that, and I think it's going to surprise them all. Really, all the people watching at home, it's going to surprise them at maybe the message is getting across. Maybe some of these people really did, learn that they crossed the line and they did the wrong thing. Okay, so anyway, with that aside, there's an article here written yesterday, about Dwayne Johnson, the actor, and it's entitled, it's from E! News, written by Ashley Joy Parker, and it's entitled Dwayne Johnson Explains Why He Won't Run for President. And he, essentially what he's saying is, he wants to put his family first, which is good. Okay, I think he understands the nightmare that politics is in this country these days. And if you jump into that tornado, you're going to get thrown around and your family's going to get tossed aside. But here's my take on this. I don't have anything against Dwayne Johnson as a person, as an individual, okay? He's a good entertainer. He seems like, an honest guy and everything, okay? But we've gone down this road before where people, celebrities and stuff like that, want to be president, and they're good at drawing a crowd, but when they get into office, they totally don't live up to people's expectations and sometimes make things worse, okay? And I'm not saying that all actors should never be running for political seats, okay? I don't think that. But I think right now, with the way things are in this country, and the history we've had with people who were in the entertainment business getting into politics as governors or presidents or senators and stuff like that, there hasn't been like this big positive thing that's come out of that, okay? I don't think anybody can really point a finger at an actor turned president or whatever and say that, oh, he was the greatest president we ever had or something like that, or he was the greatest governor we ever had. By most accounts, they're just sort of mediocre, in what they do, and sometimes even controversial. But for some reason in America, people in this country, they get themselves absorbed in Hollywood, okay, to the point where they think these people they see on the screen as they act, in real life, that's how they act, okay, and that's not true, okay. These people that you see in the TV shows and in the movies are actors, okay. They are trained actors. They've studied this. They know how to do things to degrees where they can convince an audience that they're sad or happy or whatever, and they have a way of delivering lines. And these people are not just randomly or not just taken as they come out of the fucking schools, okay? They're selected carefully by directors, producers, and stuff like that to fill roles that they feel can be filled by, good actors. And so it also sets them up for people to say, oh, well, I'd like to see that person for president because he's so good on TV, he's so honest and everything like that. And, all I can say is you don't know this person, you only know the character he's acting as, okay? But you don't know this guy behind the scenes, all right? There's nothing there about being an actor on TV that says, I should be a politician, okay? That's not why they're there. They are there to entertain you. That's all they're there for. Now, some people, I guess you could, look at politics in America as, a sort of a variation of entertainment for some, because that's part of what they do to get voters riled up. But there's a difference, because these people are playing in reality and presenting you with an agenda that you can swallow or spit out. all right, depending on who you are. And a lot of people can't be entertained by someone who says, I want to stop abortions, or I want to, ban certain people from doing things. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna. It's not going to be an easy thing for society to swallow. So you can't assume that because somebody on TV is so appealing that they're going to be equally appealing on the outside. Okay, and like I said, we've had Donald Trump. Okay, he's not an actor, but he's been acting like a normal, trying to act like a human being all his fucking life. Okay, and failing at it miserably. But Donald Trump has dabbled into the entertainment industry. Okay, we know of his reality show. He's done things. Miss America pageants and shit like that. Whatever. We know of this, and I think for a lot of people that sold them on the idea that he could be a president. But at the same time, he was a liar. He's deceitful. We know he's racist. All that stuff was coming out when they started to put the political camera on him. All right, and still people wanted to see him president. I mean, even when he was talking bad about women and stuff like that, you had women in the GOP defending him. That's what's ridiculous. So, like I said, it doesn't. I don't think reaching out to Hollywood for an actor is really a good thing to do. Okay, if these people really want to be politicians, then they really should stop acting and focus on being a politician. And because you can't do both at the same time. Politics is a monster in itself, just like being an actor is. And people are going to expect you to stay focused on your stance on things and not get sidetracked by fame, okay, because you were in this movie or what movie. And ultimately, when your time runs out in politics and you try to go back into Hollywood, as some do, you're going to find that you burnt your bridges in a lot of places, and it's not going to be a good thing. And so, like I said, I don't think Dwayne Johnson running for president, when he really doesn't sound like he's 100% into this, okay? He really wants to focus on family, which is fine, because politics will ruin that if he jumps into this thing. And I think people need to stop with this, idolization of celebrities someday being presidents, okay? And just remember that what you're seeing on that screen is not the individual you think he is or she is, okay? They're acting in a role, and that role requires them to behave that way. And because they're trying to create a character by their own performance. Now, how they act away from that camera always shocks people. Like, oh, they got pulled over for DUI, or this one crashed their car into somebody's house and it blew up. And, all these things surprise the hell out of them because we never saw them do that on TV. That's not the way they behave on TV. That's what I'm talking about. We don't know these people. We don't know these people at all. And so why should we just randomly say, oh, okay, let's put that one, you haven't heard one true thing out of that person's mouth in all the years they've been acting, because you only see them in the movies or on TV shows. You don't know. Unless they come out, verbally and start getting mixed up into politics, which a lot of them, only do through activism, you don't really know, what their policy is or what they think they ought to do in this country. You don't. So it's not like we should just be sucked into this thing like a magnet here and say, yes, let's put this person in as president. No. Look for the legitimate politicians out there who've been fighting to work their way up the ladder for their life to get to the top, okay? And focus on that, because frankly, people that are just pulled off the streets and crowned president in this country who have had no political background at all really don't do very good jobs in this country. They really don't. And they got a history of radical thinking, and it just doesn't work. It don't work in politics. You have to be a negotiator first. You got to be able to cut deals. in order to get things your way. That's why things take so much time. They move slowly in this country as we progress, because nobody is all interested in just changing gears, right off the bat. You got to work for each gear. That's how it works. All right, so that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So please comment and subscribe, and keep your eyes out there for any information concerning COVID and the monkeypox. And please, treat each other well. Don't start fights. Don't throw beer cans. Don't do any of this stuff. Okay, it's not needed. Okay, we don't have to settle our differences in that way. That's childish. It's only going to get you in jail. And if you don't want to be there, if you don't have the time to serve the time, then don't do it. Okay, and if you don't like what somebody's saying, just get up and walk out. That's all you got to do. Just get up and walk away. Okay, it's a very simple thing to do. All right, so I'll talk to you guys again later. So take care, buddy. Bye-bye.